Who will the Rams draft in the second round? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. We're trying to get to 13,000 subs before the draft, so hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and also let us know, who do you like for the Rams in the second round? Who should they draft with their second round pick? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Dodgers Nation, SI, Locked On Rams. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 9th season. We're changing up. It's not he just finished his 8th season. He's entering his 9th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on the X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, the Rams starting OTAs. Puka is looking very different. Also, who should the Rams draft in the second round? Throw out some names for that. But first, we're going to talk about Jared Goff and some comments he made on a podcast. Is the Goff-Stafford trade the best win-win trade in NFL history? But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Travis, we're going to get right into it. We've definitely talked about this topic ad nauseum in the past. Goff to the Lions for Matthew Stafford, the Rams. But Goff was on a podcast recently, and he said, in hindsight, being traded to the Lions was the greatest thing that ever happened to me for my career and my development as a human. Being shipped off and being sent to a place to die, essentially, is what a lot of people, a little dramatic there, a lot of people think it was, and I was never going to allow that to happen. I'm fortunate enough to be around a lot of good coaches and players in Detroit that support me and help me reach my potential. So immediate reaction to that is, yeah, so same with us, buddy. Okay, that was the best thing that happened to the Rams as well. But it's great that he feels this way. He was motivated, and he has had a good amount of success and helped really turn around that franchise in Detroit.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot here, and obviously it's never going to feel good when someone says, "Hey, look, you're great, but you got to leave." Right? We're taking another guy who does what you do, only better. Good luck to you. It feels like you know what. And I understand why he's saying what he's saying. I understand that this is the best thing that happened to him for his career and his development. I think he's probably right. I think that it's one of the trades that really has worked out for both sides in such an epic way that it's on a short list of maybe best trades ever as far as like what both teams got out of it. But we'll get to that in a second. I kind of want to start right here. He's not wrong. When the deal got done, the deal wasn't just, hey, listen, the Rams get Matthew Stafford, who we know is incredibly talented. What would happen if you put him on a really good team with a really good coach? Well, we got an answer to that. But it was all about Stafford coming to L.A. and whether or not they could get over the top and win a Super Bowl, which, as like I just said, we know that they did. But it was also from the other side, the trade was looked at as, oh, we got 2 first-round draft picks. We'll find our quarterback of the future in the draft. That the expectation was that the Lions were going to be terrible, that Jared Goff was going to be terrible, that Jared Goff was nothing more than being propped up by one of the great coaches in the NFL and Sean McVay, and that the second he was on his own away from the warm embrace of Sean McVay's mind and offense, that he was going to crater and become one of the great busts in NFL history, that he was going to die, that he would quickly become a backup somewhere else, and that he was never the long-term solution at quarterback in Detroit. That was never part of the plan. It's exactly what happened. So I understand why he feels the way he does, because this wasn't, hey, fresh start in Detroit. This was a halfway house in Detroit for him to go, spend a couple of years until they got back to the top of the draft and could take the next big thing at quarterback. Instead, he took him to the NFC Championship game. Instead, he solidified himself as a really good NFL quarterback. I understand why he feels the way he does, and he's not wrong.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's more interesting to talk about this from the Goff angle, because the Stafford angle is pretty simple, right? He's the Bugatti parked at the trailer park meme at the he knows that he's an elite player. He just was surrounded by players that really, he had some talent, of course, in Megatron, but really as an organization, they just didn't have the depth to put him in a position to win big. We knew the talent that he had, but from the Goff standpoint, as you mentioned, that was a Lions team that was in full rebuild mode, and it was supposed to be about getting those picks that would allow them to expedite that rebuild. Not only did they get those picks that totally accelerated that rebuild, you got a franchise quarterback in Jared Goff that to a rebuilding team that had the luxury of having the time to allow him to develop. That's what the Rams didn't have. They had no more time. It was a timing issue. The Rams got what they wanted in the short term, an elite quarterback that led them to a Super Bowl, and the Lions got what they wanted in a quarterback that developed into their guy that helped them just reverse all these curses, right? No more brown bags over your face in Detroit. So they both franchise got exactly what they needed.
And I think, and look, I've been really critical of him here on Locked On Rams. The Everyday also know this. When we did our crossover, I believe it's Matt Derry in Detroit, when we went on his pod with him and talked about this. Dan Campbell deserves a ton of credit in this scenario, because to your point, Doug, when you're talking about that Jared Goff was going to Detroit, it wasn't just that he was going to a different team. It's that he was going to the worst team, to the worst organization, to the place where your career goes to expire, and that there's no hope of this ever really becoming a viable franchise. Dan Campbell changed that. Give him his flowers right now. That he's going a little bit like this. That's not really my sort of leadership. But I'll say this. It worked. And Jared Goff responded to it. The Lions are a functioning organization for the first time in forever. Campbell's a huge part of that. Goff's a huge part of that. And quite frankly, I don't know Jared Goff well at all, but I got the chance to talk with him a few times. He's a good guy, and he seemed like he was trying to do the best that he could. He just wasn't what the Rams needed at that particular time. To your point, the clock started to tick pretty loudly. Sean McVay very clearly felt that they needed to make a change at that position, and it worked. And the Rams won the Super Bowl. The Lions have their guy. The Lions are the division champions. The Lions have a chance to be a real team in the NFC for the foreseeable future. This is one of the rare deals that worked out for everybody.
Yeah, and let's not forget, now that they have more recent success, it feels like, the Detroit Lions are flying high. Let's not forget, the best thing that happened for the Rams was they drafted Jared Goff. They got a taste of that success, and they used Jared Goff to get Matthew Stafford, and they won a Super Bowl. Okay, there's 12 teams out there, including the Detroit Lions, that have not raise that Lombardi trophy. So the Rams are the big winners. Talking about a little before the show, kind of look back at NFL history. Maybe Champ Bailey for Clint Portis. Maybe if you look at the 0-1 draft where the Chargers traded down to get LaDainian Tomlinson, the Falcons ended with Michael Vick. There's some examples of some win-wins, but I think for right now, one team got a Super Bowl, one team got a franchise quarterback and draft picks that led to their current success. And let's be honest, the Lions just winning playoff games feels like a Super Bowl for them, okay?
It is.
It really is.
It is. They went from the joke, right? The joke for my entire lifetime has been Cleveland and Detroit. That if you're in Cleveland or Detroit, your career is over. You've got no chance. They're all, going to make the wrong decision at the wrong time. It's never going to turn, and it finally did turn in Detroit. Now, turn for 1 year. They got to continue to get better and continue to kind of stack that up year after year the way that the Rams have, but the trade worked out for everybody.
Do you want to see Goff win a Super Bowl in Detroit?
No, because that means that the Rams are out at some point. Now, if the choice is the Rams are out, but not at the hands of the Lions, that, like last year, the Rams got knocked out by Detroit. Let's say that the Rams just missed the playoffs. They don't get in. Yeah. In that scenario, sure. I wish him no ill will necessarily, but the Lions are in the way right now. The Lions are one of those other teams that you're probably going to have to go through at one point, and that's tough for the Rams.
Me too. Hey, you know how I get down. I got that alarm set extra early so I have more time to be a hater. I can't see Jared Goff winning a Super Bowl. But coming up next, we're going to take a look at the second round of the draft and explore some targets. Got some receivers, got some linemen. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
This episode of Locked On Rams is sponsored by BetterHelp. So more time, right? Like Doug was just talking about having a little more time, getting up extra early in the morning. What would you do with an extra hour in your day? Would you spend it on the things that you love, right? Would you want to go for a run, maybe get a little exercise in, take a nap, read a book? spend a little bit more time with your friends. A lot of us want more time, but the question is, what are you going to do with that time? And if you had unlimited time, how would you use it? Well, therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. This is where BetterHelp comes in. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire. You're going to get matched with a licensed therapist. And if you don't quite hit it off with that therapist, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So figure out and learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a little programming reminder, it's Locked On NFL's mock draft live on April 17th at 7 a.m. Eastern, streaming on Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reaction from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. So, yeah, we were both a part of that. We got our pick in, so definitely want to check that out. Now, Travis, sticking with the draft, we talked a lot about the first round, a lot of targets in the first round, but second round really has a lot of potential for this Rams team. I mean, Steve Avila, technically a high second round pick, and he looks like a franchise cornerstone, right? So we kind of explore the positions first. So I think the first round, we're looking at edge. We're looking at left tackle if you want to possibly trade up. You're looking at possibly the cornerback position if you want to think long term. But I think in the second round, that's when the Rams have typically kind of drafted some receivers, right?
Yep.
And there's some guys in the second round that could be game changers and high value picks. First, I want to start with Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Now, Travis, we're talking about a fifth-year breakout. Check this out. 42 catches, first 4 years at South Carolina. Last season alone, he had 33 catches for 15-plus yards, okay? So this is someone that completely turned things around. He was a high school quarterback, got a motorcycle accident, tragedy to his parents, and he really turned himself into a player, and he's someone that I like if it's out of South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a good point, Doug, that the second round and where the Rams have had some real success is, further down in the draft. We talked about Puka last year being a fifth-round pick. We know Cooper Kupp was a third-round pick. Like, these are the guys that they've really – Kyren Williams, another fifth-round pick. So I know we get super excited for guys that are picked in that first round, despite not having had one for forever and ever, it seems like. But this is where you can find some really good, talented guys like you're talking about, especially guys that are kind of on that arc that are getting better as they get deeper into their college career, like you're talking about right here. You can take a little bit more of a chance. The second round, you're still kind of probably thinking a little bit chalky. You need somebody that's going to come in that's almost a guarantee to make your team, that's got a very good chance to become a starter. Wide receivers, it feels like the Rams are in pretty good shape right there. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to add depth. That doesn't mean you don't want to add other really good players. But I would be a little bit surprised if in this draft, unless they move up to get a big-time guy, I would be a little surprised if they went with wide receiver in the second round.
It'd be a little bit of a surprise, but this is the Rams. And
True.
If they see the value in one of these guys and say, you know what, this is someone that can really help us this year, maybe they go that route. You also have Roman Wilson out of Michigan. What I like about Roman Wilson, reliable. How about this? Only 2% of his targets were dropped. 78% of his targets were first downs. Doesn't have that catch radius. Is not a big physical guy. But, I mean, how about 4.39 40 from your slot receiver?
Well, you've heard me say this before. The everydayers will remember me saying this a lot. I love guys that come from big-time programs. I love guys that have played in big-time games. Michigan has played in more big-time games over the last couple of years than just about anybody that didn't go to Georgia or Alabama along the way, right? Like, this is what we're talking about. high stakes, high pressure over and over again. He'll never play in front of bigger crowds than he's already played for in front of Michigan, right? There's nothing in the NFL that looks like the big house. There's just doesn't exist. So he's comfortable. He knows what eyeballs look like. He knows what expectations look like. He's played for a pro coach in Jim Harbaugh. So he understands what an NFL, environment feels and looks like. So I really like that. I think that not just because of the position, but because of where he's coming from, who he's played for, and the success that he's had.
I totally agree about your point about just these big programs, especially with the modern day college football. I mean, these guys are basically like NFL franchises, the way they're ran, the way they travel, the hotels they stay at, the accommodations. And also, too, I think the point about Jim Harbaugh, right? He knows what it's like to play under a NFL style of head coach. I think you love this next guy, though, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, 4'4", 140. I mean, this is someone who, of course, you got he's athletic for a white dude type stuff. This guy's just athletic for anyone. I mean, white man can jump, 97th percentile on vertical jump, the 3-cone, the versatility, everything he puts together on tape, just incredible one-handed highlight catches. He's someone that I really think, they like drafting out of the SEC, right? I mean, Ricky Pearsall definitely is a name to note. You got Jalen Polk as another name, so you go after. And on the defensive side of the ball, we talked about drafting, Chap Robinson just for his nickname, right? Sure. But how about, the Choptimus Prime? But how about this guy, my man out of Clemson, Ruke Orhorhoro? Like, I pronounced that correctly. Just so you know, it sounds like, the Rutro. Well,
I had just wrapped my brain and getting it right with Obo Okoronkwo for the Rams for a few years. And then, of course, he leaves. So maybe I've got a chance to get this guy. It won't take me a few years to get it. But look, like you said, I think you're looking for ability. You're looking for raw material. Like the deeper into the draft, the more I'm looking at, why not? Why not take a flyer on that? Why not try it? You can look, it didn't work out, but I think an interesting example of this is Tutu. Super fast, right? Just blazing speed. Wasn't quite big enough, wasn't quite durable enough, didn't quite have the ability to do some things that you need to do at the NFL level. But eventually one of those is going to hit, and you're going to find a guy that can just absolutely pop like that. I like looking in the SEC. Les Snead loves drafting out of the SEC, Georgia in particular. So, yeah, those are very intriguing picks.
Yeah, and that's the thing you kind of want to look for is guys that you can kind of combine the raw skills, what they did at the combine, and do they back it up on tape? Orhorhoro is someone, he turns pressures into sacks. Where we've seen some of these guys, you got the pressure, but you don't get the production. He has advanced pass rush moves, really polished, not great in the run game, not huge. He's 290, so not great lateral agility. But Braden Fiske out of Florida State, this is a name that I really hope the Rams strongly consider because he's someone that led all defensive tackles in 40-yard dash, vertical jump, broad jump, short shuttle. But also, you look at the tape, and you see it translate. He backs up those combine results, got quick get off, great feet. Braden Fiske is the name. But like you said, it kind of just depends which route you want to go, right? What do you get? Do you trade up in the first round? Do you trade that pick? It's all about kind of addressing needs and just filling in these holes with as much quality and upside as you possibly can find.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes back to where you feel you are in your window. And I think that the Rams feel that their window is pretty open right now. The Aaron Donald component of all of this and not understanding exactly what your defense might look like is going to take a little bit of an adjustment along the way. But if you feel like you have a chance to go make a run, if you feel like you have a chance to win your division, if you feel like you have a chance to win some playoff games, and I bet my bottom dollar that Sean McVay and Les Snead and Kevin Demoff and all the people involved in the Rams think that they're right back in that window again. I think you need to err a little bit more on the side of can they step in and go right now as opposed to, hey, that guy's going to be really good in 3 years. I don't know what that 3-year line looks like right now. Like last year, kind of take hey, let's see how this shakes out. Well, we're right back in the we got to go win right now mode. So I wouldn't be surprised if you tended a little bit more towards this is about what they're going to be as opposed to potential upside in the future. But I'm okay with that.
Could not agree more. You go all in, take out the watch, take off your wife's earrings, the lien on the mortgage. Like you take advantage of Matthew Stafford, elite quarterback, elite coach, and then you try to win as many Lombardis as you possibly can. But coming up in our final segment, OTAs. They're beginning, and we got Puka Nacua. Looks a little different. Had some very interesting comments. That's coming up next. Got Locked On Rams.
So we all like going to games, right? You like going to a concert. You like going to see a little comedy. How about the Gametime app? Are you buying your tickets with that Gametime app? Because if you're doing it any other way, you're probably not doing it the best possible way, right? It's baseball season here in town. We got hockey playoffs here in town. The NBA, the Lakers can kind of slide through. All sorts of different playoffs going on. Gametime app. You don't have to worry about going to this place and that place. The Gametime app is going to take care of you. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Easy to find and buy Major League Baseball tickets for any kind of event in your area. I love this part too, the all-in pricing. You toggle this feature and it shows the total up front with no surprises at the end. How many times on other places have you gone through and like, oh, that's not bad. And then you buy them and then you go through and then right before you're going to order these tickets, it's like, wait, that's not even close to what I was ordering. That's not going to happen at Gametime, not with that all-in pricing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app, the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode. Can't thank you guys enough. And you can join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. All right, Travis, picking it up here. The OTAs have begun April 15th. The first workouts. You got a couple weeks of team programmings. You got team meetings, strength and conditioning, physical rehab, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy, but really the most interesting thing was players being exposed to the media, talking to the media, and Puka Nacua talked to the media. And the first thing that stands out is my man is extra lean. He's extra lean. He's kind of got a little bit of a castaway beard vibe happening there. I don't know if you've seen this, but really, I mean, he talked about how he worked out with Cooper Kupp and how rigorous it was. He said a lot of top end speed. That's what we were working on. His conditioning days are some of the tougher ones. And he said, I remember the first week I came back, I think I threw up every day of the week, and he wasn't a fan of that because it was on his lawn. He said, you're throwing up in my bushes, Puka. Thanks. But it was super fun to come back today. I feel like I didn't miss a beat. So you got Puka Nacua throwing up, barfing all over Cooper Kupp's lawn.
Yeah, look, here's what I love about Puka. And I think that the biggest challenge for an NFL player is how do you come back year after year and be as good or better than you were the year before? And Puka set that bar so high in that first year. You know, we talked about all the different NFL records that he was able to establish in his rookie season. And so how do you get better? How do you improve that? And maybe it's those little things around the edges, right? It's getting a little bit better shape, get a little bit faster, find a way to be a little bit more durable, a little bit more pliable, or whatever it may be. But that he's willing to do that, I think bodes incredibly well for the Rams, incredibly well for Puka, because look, we've seen it before. And not that I thought this would happen, but it's always kind of in the back of your mind as a possibility where a guy comes in, kills it, and thinks, oh, I got this league figured out. And then they come back for the second year and it's like, no, you don't. And I don't think we're going to have that adjustment. I don't think Puka's going to have the year he had a year ago, simply because I don't think anybody in the league is going to have a year like he had a year ago. That's how good of a year it was. So even if he regresses 5 or 10%, that's still an amazing year. But the amount of work that he's putting in is leading to him fertilizing Kupp's bushes with his vomit. That's pretty impressive. That he's working as hard as he is. Love that guy. I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to see what he looks like in year 2, because he just absolutely blew my hair back in that first year.
Yeah, when I throw up in my friend's bushes, it's not because I've been working out. I'll tell you that
a little
much,
different.
right?
A little different. I've done that, but not because I was exercising too vigorously.
Exactly, right? So, look, I think I agree with you 100%. I mean, this is someone who is working like rents do, right? I mean, this is someone who knows what he did last season, but just having the access to a Cooper Kupp too, I mean, how beneficial is that? I mean, not a lot of guys have just the close relationship with a guy that has done it at the highest level for so many years, and he's just absorbing and he's just taking it all in. So, yeah, I mean, I think Puka Nacua realizes that there's going to be an adjustment made to him, and he's going to have to adjust back. And I think the adjustment back is he's going to be leaner, he's going to be quicker, and I think he's going to maybe not put up the same numbers as he did last year, but he is not a fluke. He's not a one-year wonder, anything like that. I think he's here to stay, and I think he's going to be a really good player for this organization for a long time.
I think there's three big things that the Rams have to look forward to look at heading into the 2024 season. Number one is, what does your defense look like without Aaron Donald? That's number one. Number two to me is, which version of Cooper Kupp are you going to get? Are you going to get the Kupp that was, a top 3 or 4 receiver in the league, or was last year kind of the new normal for Cooper Kupp? I think that's a big question. And then the last one is, what does Puka do in year two? That he's, again, set the bar so high in year one. How do you replicate or improve or at least get close to that? I could throw Kyren Williams in there for almost the exact same reasons as Puka, just kind of, it was so much better in his first, not his rookie year, but his first full seasons in the league than I think anybody was expecting. Can those guys continue to improve, continue to impact the game in the same way? And I think that's the list. I think that's what we're all looking forward to, and that's what we can't wait to see.
Absolutely, because if he turns it on and he continues on that success, it's like, wait a minute, Pro Bowl receiver and Kyren Williams, Pro Bowl running back? Oh, wait a minute, now Pro Bowl quarterback? It's like, now you're talking about an offense that really is up there with the tops in the league. But that's going to do for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And, of course, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.